What's going on, everybody? Woodward Bets in the house here on a Wednesday. Beer and Scott back at it once again, taking a look at everything in the sports world. NFL midweek, we're going to take a look at how the waivers went down, update the injuries, take a look at some line movements, see if there's any moves there we want to make on this Wednesday. We also have MLB playoffs. We had a game last night, and Scott, you and I were divided on that over-under, and it ends up hitting right in the middle. So neither of us were wrong is the positive outlook on that, but an entertaining game. Boston takes it down, but another MLB game tonight. So let me bring in Scott here. Another exciting day here at Woodward Bets. How we doing, buddy? You're in studio, living it up today.
Yeah, I had to come in and get some stuff done and hanging out at the studio today. Man, it's a fun place to be, as you know. When you were here, we were here last week, and you get all the guys with Braylon Edwards and Ryan Romani and Darren McCarty and Joik Bell and all the other personalities here. It's just a fun place to be. So, yeah, I was excited to get here. I actually got here earlier than I was supposed to, and I was driving in saying, man, I've never gone to work early in my life. So, hey, here we are. But, hey, it's a lot of fun being here. So, definitely. I think after I'm done here, I might have to get my hair cut here by some of these pretty ladies sitting around and get me some high – get me tidied up a little bit here. So, but yeah, exciting stuff. Baseball's right in the mid action here for playoffs. I got that late run there to get that push on the in the ninth inning there from that baseball game last night. So definitely a rough outing for Garrett Cole. Got smashed, got bounced out. I think the third inning or so. He didn't make it till. So very rough for Yankee fans, and they'll bring up how many championships they have and blah, 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 after the loss. But baseball, I'll tell you, Chris, when started watching that game, it was the first couple innings, and the fans are into it, standing up cheering when there's 2 strikes, 2 outs. And I thought, man, I missed some playoff baseball. So really glad it's back. Fans are involved. We got another great game tonight with the Cardinals and the Dodgers. So it definitely should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, every pitch matters. It really becomes important. Regular season's kind of like, all right, it's here. You got 162 games to swath through, but playoffs really becomes very, very important, very tense. Everything matters. Every at-bat matters. So excited to see another game here tonight. Now, not excited to see the Cardinals. They're always a thorn in my side as a Brewers fan. They always find a way to get there. Go on a historic run. Forget how many they even won in a row to get there, but pretty impressive there. So as for some housekeeping, if you enjoy the show, all we ask, follow us at Woodward Bets on Twitter. Make sure you're following the network at Woodward Sports as well. Today we will be doing our KMA, and you know what that means. We don't have to spell it out for you. To anyone in your league, anyone that burned, we're going to give a few guys that burned us this week. Also, we want your sit-start questions, your trade questions, your dynasty questions. I play literally. I'd say I play in a million leagues. I'm not. I think it is. It's a part-time job with all these leagues. So I promise you, if you're in a league, I probably play in a very similar league and have played in it for 10, 15, 20 years. So you guys got questions. Scott and I have a lot of experience playing these games. So get your questions in again at Woodward Bets on Twitter. The best way to do that. So Scott, anything here to for the people before we dive in here? Some NFL. Some injuries, some lines, and then get into MLB. But getting anything here before we get started?
No, I mean, I'm excited to dive into to the baseball game tonight. It's a good week. I like this KMA segment we have. Kind of lets me get a little bit of stuff off my chest. But I will mention one thing just because I have the platform here and the lead into that KMA segment. I was stuck in traffic the other day coming up I-23, which is a big freeway here, and it went down from 2 lanes to 1 lane. And, man, don't be the dude that blocks the traffic in the fast lane to let everybody get over. Don't be that dude. Please don't be that dude. I was very frustrated with the guy the other day. And, man, so, to that guy who cut me off and wouldn't let me get around him, you can KMA. That's for damn sure. But I know it didn't have anything to do with the sports, but we got a lot of construction barrels. It's like our it's like our state tree or something here. So a lot of construction, but just don't be that jerk that's got to block the traffic. I mean, what are you afraid of? Somebody's going to pass you? But other than that, looking forward here to getting into some baseball. It's my favorite time of the year. The weather is awesome. We got sports coming in. We got NBA getting ready to start, NHL getting ready to start. We got the Major League playoffs, and then of course we have NFL, which is king, obviously. But fun time. I'm glad we get to sit here every day with the people and talk about the sports every day here at Woodward Bets.
Absolutely. So we want the people to be involved as well. So again, get your questions in. We want this to be interactive. We want to talk about what you guys want to hear about. That's the goal of Woodward Bets, whether it's educational stuff, which we'll spend a lot more time on some of the slower days, going over some of the DFS terminology, what it means, more betting terminology as well. You know, you hear all these words, parlays and teasers and different odds. So on slower days, we're going to get to that. But like you mentioned, today is not that day. We got a lot on the docket here. Let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. NFL season well underway, as we know. You can still draft a new fantasy team each week on Underdog Fantasy to win cash prizes. So basically a best ball format. You draft it, forget it. You don't have to mess with it at all. So it's not too late to get into the action. Through their slick mobile app and user-friendly site, you can join a league and draft a team in literally minutes. Plus, the folks at Underdog going to help you get started with a free $10. Who doesn't love free? So when you sign up, make your first deposit, use the promo code WSN. That's WSN as in Woodward Sports Network. So just go visit UnderdogFantasy.com in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Sign up with the code WSN. Deposit $10 and you get $10 free. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code WSN. So let's just recap some of the waivers we talked about yesterday, Scott. Some of the big names, obviously, Damian Williams, Samaje Perine, guys like Kenneth Gainwell. It just depends on your league who's out there. But I think I mentioned it in passing here, but one guy I really got excited about last night was Alex Collins with Seattle. I mean, if you looked at how he looked compared with Chris Carson, it wasn't even close to me. I mean, Collins came in with a ton of bursts, and he's always had that. He's always had that explosiveness, a guy that's just never been able to stay healthy, but familiar with this Seattle organization. I believe it's where he started his career. So Carson dealing with a little bit of an injury here. That game coming up very quickly on Thursday. Hell, we might get a start out of Alex Collins, and maybe he steals the job from Chris Carson. Let's remember, Carson, as good as he's been, this is a 7th-round pick. It's not like they have a ton invested in this guy. So thoughts on Collins, thoughts on anyone else that was added last night that maybe surprised you, or anything else just to kind of clean up the Week 5 waivers here?
Yeah, you mentioned Collins there. That's definitely an interesting one. That's a pretty deep dive. That's some pretty good information there. Obviously, Pete Carroll likes to run the ball. They've actually been playing, if you look at plays that each team's been running, Seattle's been playing a lot slower here recently the last few weeks. So I think Pete Carroll's kind of getting that offensive coordinator who came in with a reputation of like run a fast tape, up speed tempo offense. Saw Russ Wilson get dinged up a little bit too. So with Chris Carson, like you mentioned, him being dinged up, I think the opportunity definitely is there. We didn't really have too much there on the waiver wire. Obviously Williams going to fill in a few weeks here for Montgomery. But yeah, I really like your call there. I got some of my waivers that are actually on Wednesday, which is good why we bring this up, because I know some leagues do Tuesday, some leagues do it Wednesday. So I'm going to be getting in there tonight, and I definitely need a running back, as I mentioned yesterday. I got a couple red pluses next to my guy with the Mixons and the Montgomerys that I had. But I think, you kind of looking into it, I was looking like what I would do to replace Mixon, and I think with Chris Evans and Pierre, that's going to be tough. I don't really know who's going to get the carry. It seems like I'm guessing. So Damian Williams, to me, I think is my priority tonight for me, just because I'm going to need a running back. We know he's going to get the carries. We know he had some success in Kansas City. So I think that's the route for me today. But I know you had a lot of waivers last night. Did you get a lot of your Collins guy, or did you get any Williams? How did you fare?
Yeah, I got a lot of Collins, actually. Williams was not available on most of my wires. So, he was a guy that was drafted. He was a guy that once Tariq Cohen was no longer a part of the equation, I think people wised up and said Montgomery is not going to get everything. So a lot of those direct handcuffs backups are usually already rostered. So Collins was the main guy I was after last night. I kind of stayed away from P. Ryan, after we talked yesterday, kind of dug more into it. And, you had mentioned Mixon initially was supposed to be week to week. Now it sounds like more day to day. I don't know if he's going to play this week. I would expect him to probably miss this week, but I don't think it's going to be a long-term injury. So to go and pour a ton of your fab or waste a waiver priority on a guy like that just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So a couple other guys I dug out for anyone that does have waivers tonight. I'm in your boat, Scott. I have most of mine are on Tuesday night, but I have a lot on Wednesday night as well. A couple more running backs of note here. First one is Jeremy Mcnichols of the Titans, who, yes, we've seen Derrick Henry get more involved in the passing game, but this guy's been their pass catching back and saw a ton of targets in that last game, 12 targets against the Jets. And we know a lot of that was twofold. First, they were playing from behind. Second, no Julio, no A.J. Brown. So I'm not expecting him to get 12 targets a week, but he's been pretty productive through these first couple weeks. So he's one. And then we mentioned Damian Williams. There's a guy behind him, Khalil Herbert, a 6th-round rookie, I believe out of Virginia Tech, that has looked good in preseason, a guy that's explosive. I think he could be an option there for Chicago as well. We know Damian Williams got hurt in that last game as well. So more of a deeper dive here, Scott. We're talking more bigger leagues, not guys you're going to run out and start right away. Collins hopefully draws that start, and then I'd feel pretty good about him as an RB2 or even a flex. But these guys, more bench stashes, but to me, can never have enough running back. We've already seen the injury bug strike pretty much all the big names. We know more are coming. So to have that depth not only helps your team, also gives you trade chips. There's going to be teams that are desperate for running backs. Hell, I have a few teams where, I really need running backs. People know that. The value of those running backs just gets that much higher. So never opposed to having a bunch of running backs on my bench.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. And you did mention, we're into week 4. You're going to get a lot of guys that are 0-3 or 0-4, 1-3, that are going to need players. And you know what? Last night I actually did spend some time looking at my teams and trying to see, maybe I can get a running back in a trade. Josh Jacobs, I think, is a great person right now to target. Maybe even some Chase Edmonds, guys like that maybe have not started off really that hot and, definitely have some history and some potential. Obviously Jacobs was a workhorse there for the Raiders for quite some time. So definitely like, guys like that. I was looking around trying to see who maybe I could buy low and maybe pick up and maybe dump off a receiver. Like if I had Cordell Patterson, I don't know what I would do with that guy. That guy's been so baffling. I mean, he's been getting Christian McCaffrey numbers. I mean, do you expect that to continue? Like at this point, you'll never get a higher trade offer or trade value for a guy that you probably would get on the waiver wire almost every other week or year in the past year. So, can you trade off somebody like that? Maybe pick up a guy, I think if I had Cordell Patterson and somebody offered me Josh Jacobs, I'd hit that accept button so fast for Jacobs, even though Patterson's been one of the best, at this point fantasy players. But I would probably make a trade like that. So I think you're going to get a lot of people in the same boat. So, definitely I was looking last night for some trade opportunities to see who I might get a frustrated owner or somebody along those lines.
Yeah, you could even go higher up. And Antonio Gibson has not been as good as people expected him to be. So he could be a target for you. I really like Leonard Fournette. It's almost like he's taking over that backfield. Jones, we saw, score a touchdown, no doubt. And Gio's been out. That certainly helps. But I don't think a lot of people realize what they have with Leonard Fournette in an offense with Tom Brady. If he's going to have the upper hand in that committee, there's a lot of value in that. So guys like that, no doubt. I agree on Edmonds. I'm not as high on Jacobs as you are. Just something doesn't seem right with him. But the point is still there. Cordell Patterson, a fantastic sell high. And as we move forward, I think we'll start adding, a sell high, a buy low, some of those things to help people look at trades. So hopefully we can add that segment moving forward. I kind of like identifying a couple guys each and really going after some of the buy lows. We keep mentioning Robert Woods. I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall, but still in that camp as well, that he could be a nice buy low option for you. So, Scott, let's get into our KMA, our tilted segment here. I'm going to give the floor to you here. A lot of options, a lot of guys to choose from, as there are each and every week. But who had you tilted here in week 4?
Well, as far as my own personal lineups, I will start off by saying Travis Kelce did a number on me last week. Obviously, Hill had the great week, but Kelce was in such a killer spot. Not only get 4 points, and especially at as high owned as he was, just absolutely killed my teams as any chance to get up to the top. So Travis Kelce and the rest of the Chiefs offense, obviously Kelsey's going to be he's obviously going to be a stud, but hey, this is what this segment's for. Kelce, you burned me, so you can KMA. But the one I wanted to kind of get into, I'm going to speak here for Jacksonville fans. I know, I have a few buddies that are actually Jacksonville fans, and I know they're really not happy with their boy Urban Meyer. So, Urban, all you Jacksonville fans out there, I'll tell them for you. You can kiss my ass too. So sitting back at a Monday claiming that it was, trying to claim like it was just a random type thing is bullcrap. Come on, Urban. You were in your own bar, for God's sakes. Don't blame any of that. You own the place. So, it just looked bad to sit home on a Monday, after getting whooped there in Cincinnati, staying back. Come on, fly with your team. Canceling meetings. Come on, you're better than that, buddy. And have better self-awareness where you're at, dude. That's just terrible. So, kind of like poking fun at him, but what a crappy situation. Kind of hate to see, his wife and everything kind of get dragged in. It's just sad to see, but definitely a sad situation. But I'll mention one other one here. Will Fuller, man. If you're a Will Fuller owner, he's hurt again with a finger. I'm sure you want to tell him. I get it. Injuries happen. It just seems to happen over and over to this guy. So definitely, get a KMA over to him. And then obviously we talked a little bit about Cordell Patterson, and I'm a Calvin Ridley owner. And man, that guy's frustrating as hell for me as a Calvin Ridley owner. Will you please throw Calvin Ridley the ball and not Cordell Patterson? What kind of world we live in? Cordell Patterson costs more than Calvin Ridley on DFS sites. It's unbelievable. So, come on, Calvin, let's get it going. So I'd like to see Calvin and all this Atlanta offense start getting the ball to their best player. And so that being said, come on, let's get it moving. You can KMA. Let's get Calvin the ball.
Now, the target share has been there for him. I think it's the lack of touchdowns really holding Calvin Ridley back. So I think he'll be fine. Patterson, the flavor of the week, and he's been great. But I think we'll get back here sooner rather than later. So a couple real-life NFL moves. I want to get cut by the Patriots. Traded to Carolina, basically for a bag of football. So Carolina making moves. They lose J.C. Horn. They go out to Henderson. They trade for Gilmore. Quite a combo of cornerbacks there. We also have Jalen Smith released by the Cowboys. So I'd expect somebody to be scooping him up sooner rather than later. So some big names on the move in the NFL. As far as my KMA, I agree on Will Fuller. The guy is constantly hurt, no doubt. Mine, I'm going to stick with another receiver. I put a lot of hope in. This guy struggled through preseason, barely played the first couple weeks. Coach kept saying he's got to earn it. He finally earns it in week 3, plays some more, and then week 4 comes out and lays an absolute egg while his teammate goes nuts. I'm talking Brandon Ayuk of the 49ers. Deebo Samuel has a massive game in there, 2 touchdowns there. Trey Lance in the building now. Brandon Ayuk was basically on the side of a milk carton. So I was very high on him. I was encouraged 3, put a lot of stock in him in DFS and blew up in my KMA this week. Going to be Brandon Ayuk of the 49ers. Scott, anyone else here that we want to tell the old KMA to? And again, if you're out there listening, we want to hear your guys' KMA as well. We know we're a new show here. We hope to continue to grow along with you guys and continue to build this brand. So don't be afraid to have your voice heard. We will be your megaphone here for your league mates, for anyone that burned you. And as Scott said, a little PSA said a couple weeks ago, I think, or last week, don't be the guy tweeting players and saying you sucked and you killed my fantasy team. We don't encourage that. Never, 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 never under any circumstances do we want to do that.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. That's why we kind of want to have that segment. We can just talk about it amongst ourselves and have a little fun. No need to be tweeting at anybody or, anything like that. That's just definitely that's probably one of the biggest no-nos in as far as I'm concerned in the DFS and fantasy industry.
Yeah, you're going to get a KMA from us if you're doing that kind of stuff. So don't be out there tweeting at players. So let's take a look, Scott. Guys that were most added and most dropped. This is courtesy of RTS Sports. So we'll just kind of rip through the list. Let me know anything that surprises you here. So most added this week, obviously Damian Williams topping the list. Expected to be the starter there in Chicago for a couple of weeks. We have Dawson Knox, who's been a touchdown machine. And I went back and looked. Dawson Knox, no touchdowns in college. So this guy making up for all that lost time, trying to compete with A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, who we talked about yesterday, all being on the same team. Number 3, Samaje Perine, again, expected to step in for Joe Mixon. We have A.J. Green, who has been the butt of some jokes, but this guy's been very productive so far with this Arizona offense. Alex Collins, who we talked about just a minute ago, very high on him. I think he could overtake at some point here. So get him now. Everyone wises up to that one. Schultz looks like he has the upper hand in that Dallas tight end situation. Has been fantastic. We know that offense is going to be good. James Conner back last week, stepped right back into production. So was he the reason they beat the Tennessee Titans? We'll see, but I think he's going to be highly involved here. Renfro, solid as they come out of the slot. Kenneth Gainwell, pretty much a split right now with Miles Sanders. And, of course, Randall Cobb. He of 2 touchdowns last week with Aaron Rodgers. So, Scott, who are you high on? Anything surprising here? Top 10 ads. What do you got?
Yeah, I thought Crowder was interesting. Obviously, he came off the COVID list and was sick for the first few weeks. Kind of a forgotten guy. I like Jamison Crowder if you need a wide receiver. Maybe you got to throw a dart out there. But yeah, Alex Collins is interesting. I think you've been talking me more and more into Alex Collins, so I think I'm going to dig into that, especially seeing what kind of ads he's had here. To be a top 5 added guy in a week. Obviously for a reason. So I do like your Alex Collins call more and more as we go on here.
Let's rip through the most released guys. Number 1 on the list, DJ. Obviously, an injury. We'll see how long he'll be out. A healthy scratch for Baltimore was kind of a surprise. They named Latavius Murray the starter. We know they brought in Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman, but I'm entitled to see him be a scratch in that last game. So we'll see how that plays out. But fantasy managers, short attention span. So he's off to the waiver wire. Peyton Barber with Josh Jacobs back, also dealing with a little bit of an injury. Robbie Gould, who we mentioned, was hurt in pregame. Sounds like he's going to be out a couple weeks. Will Fuller, Scott, like you just mentioned, going to be on the IR, so he's out for a minimum of 3 weeks. Sony Michel, Darrell Henderson's back. Looks like he's going to be the man in this backfield. Sony Michel off to the waiver wire. Kenyon Drake, kind of the same thing. I don't know what the hell the Raiders are doing here. They give this guy a ton of money, and they don't utilize him, especially in the passing game. But he goes to the waiver wire. Rondell Moore with the Cardinals, with A.J. Green playing so well. Christian Kirk. Just not a ton of snaps for Moore. Mark Ingram. Scott, it was cute week 1 when the guy got 5,000 carries, but this is not a good football team. That's not going to be sustainable. So they also have about 10 running backs there. So he's gone. And then Tony Jones Jr. Dealing with a little bit of an injury there in New Orleans. So any surprises here, Scott? A couple of these running backs I'm kind of surprised about. I know Kenyon Drake has not been great, but he's a guy I still want to hang on to. Again, I have questions about Jacobs. Now Barber's hurt. We could end up seeing Drake at some point be the featured back here. I know that's not his forte. He's more of the pass catcher, but that one surprises me. And I'm not ready to give up on Tyson Williams yet. I think it may be just a little bit of a wake-up call to him. But to me, he's been the best of their backs and the most explosive. So that one kind of shocked me. So Drake and Tyson kind of surprising here on this list for me. What do you got?
Yeah, I agree with you on Drake, especially when they paid him all that money. I mean, like you mentioned, you would figure they would have been able to utilize him or get him more involved in that offense. But yeah, definitely interesting too about Tyson Williams, like you mentioned. I don't know if he was in the doghouse or what exactly happened there. I think that's a knee-jerk, week-to-week type reaction. He seemed to be doing pretty well, so I was surprised with that one as well. I don't think anybody dropped him in my league, but if so, if I had to choose between Williams and Tyson, I'd probably go Williams, but Tayson's definitely a guy, definitely you could stash if you got the roster spot.
Yep. All right. Let's take a look at some of this week's lines, see if we see any major movement here on a Wednesday. Usually people dive in early on them. Midweek, we don't see a ton of movement, but we do have some movement here. The London game, the total's kind of moving up in that one, Scott, up from 44 to 46. Carolina and Philadelphia totals kind of dipped down a little bit, as has the spread down to Carolina, -3.5. Green Bay and Cincinnati up a point, 250.5. Same with New England and Houston, up to 40, so still a pretty low total there. But on the move, Minnesota. Speaking of the home team here, Detroit going to Minnesota. Minnesota up to 8.5-point favorites now. Philadelphia or Cleveland and the Chargers. This one started at 46.5, up to 48.5. I like the under in that game, so I'm kind of hoping this continues to tick up. But even at 48.5, I don't mind grabbing the under there. Down to 50.5, Arizona, San Francisco. That one's down 3 points here. And Arizona ticking up to -5.5. We have the over-under in the Dallas game all the way up to 52. Dallas -7 in that one. Kansas City down to -2.5. Big total there at 56.5. And no major line movement for Monday Night Football yet. So, Scott, to me, that Chargers-Browns one is the one I'm very intrigued with. These are two teams that defensively have been outstanding. I mean, we saw Cleveland go to Minnesota and basically hold them to a touchdown and really shut that offense down. Kind of been their story all season long. The Chargers have been very impressive. In fact, every single quarterback they've faced has been their lowest fantasy output for the season. So you got to give Brandon Staley and this defense a ton of credit, getting Derwin James back. Obviously, Bosa rushing the quarterback. But these two teams are winning more defensively than offensively. So surprised that this one's ticking up. I really like the under in this game.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. Both defenses are really good. That Cleveland-Minnesota game was a surprise to me, being as low scoring as it was last week. But, it'll be interesting with the Chargers. Seems like every home game they've been having recently, it seems like they were their own fans were outnumbered by the visiting fans. So we'll see if that happens with Cleveland being so far away this week. I think the Chargers might actually have a true type home game. Yeah, I agree with you there. And, and like we said, a lot of these line movements are because of sharp money coming in. Usually the sharp money comes in early in the week. You can kind of get a gauge for what lines they may have put out that, that the sharp bettors did not agree with. One that you mentioned that was going up was that New York Giants-Dallas game from 49.5 all the way up to 52. Just kind of glancing over the slate, that game kind of stuck out to me as maybe a game for a potential shootout. Especially with both running backs recently been running the ball pretty well. So I was looking at that, and for that to go up 2.5 points right away kind of reassured me that my thought there on that game is right on. So that's a game here I'm going to pay attention to. I kind of like that game so far as a DFS game, just kind of paying attention to the line movement. But yeah, you mentioned that Detroit line up to 8.5. If that gets to 9, if you're interested in the Minnesota at all and like these 16 teases, I'd get that before it goes up to 9. You get it at 3. To be at 2.5 when you get to 7 and 3 is obviously a better bet for you. So we've seen it moving up. I think it could actually get up to 9. Then at that point, I'm not going to tease it down to 3. I'd rather tease it at 8.5. So if you want to get in there, get the Vikings at home -2.5. I suggest you get in there before the week gets closer to Sunday.
Yep, a couple other ones I really like here. Carolina going down to -3.5 against Philadelphia. I think Carolina's going to bounce back here in a big way against this Philly team who has not been very good defensively. We saw Patrick Mahomes go nuts on them. So, I know Carolina struggled at Dallas. Also really like Buffalo. I think Buffalo goes to Kansas City and gets it done. So I like them line. You're not going to get a huge number with being such a small underdog, but that's my click. I think Buffalo wins this game outright here in Kansas City.
I like it. I do like the Bills, man. They've been playing some really good ball recently, both sides, defensively and offensively. So Kansas City been struggling a little bit. I think Kansas City actually has had a couple big games just because of the way they started. So, yeah, I like the Bills here. I think this game's going to mean more to Buffalo than it will Kansas City. So Kansas City a little down. So, yeah, obviously with that line movement going down to 2.5, looks like some sharps jumped on Buffalo as well.
Yeah, well, it's probably that thing ticked down even further. So I would jump on it here. Buffalo's the better team right now. So the Chiefs kind of stumbling. They got it righted ship. They righted the ship last week in Philadelphia, but I think this is a tall task for them with the bill. And the Cardinals, Dodgers, obviously big favorites here. Minus 235 here in the FanDuel Sportsbook. Sitting at, I believe it was 7.5. An interesting game. Max Scherzer against Adam Wainwright. Scott, thoughts on how this plays out? Obviously, the Dodgers expected to move on here, but it's hard to dismiss what the Cardinals have done, and sometimes being hot at time can carry a lot of weight as well.
Yeah, the Cardinals been the hottest team in baseball, obviously, to even get in the playoffs. It seems like they do this all the time, like you mentioned, open the show. So that 7.5 line, I actually like the over in that one, just because Max been struggling a little bit. I think both teams have just great offenses. I think that 7.5 number is just way, way too low, and I'm concerned. I'm a Dodger fan. I mean, kind of fallen into the Dodgers here as a DFS player, always late games. I generally have always been rooting on the Dodgers. So Dodgers has almost become my second team. So but I'm concerned about them here, to be truthful. I think they're in a spot here where we could see an upset and the Cardinals move on. But yeah, definitely going to be a good game. I'm not going to bet on the game itself as far as each team, the Dodgers or St. Louis. Like I said, I think it's going to be a good game, but I do like the over here in this one. I think Max might get beat up, but we'll see. Wainwright, like I said, I mean, we saw it yesterday. Cole gets in trouble, they yanked him right away. I think it's going to be the same type thing tonight. So it should be an interesting game. Obviously, one and done, you're gone. So even if Max struggles, don't be surprised they yank him out really early. So, I mean, that's a thing here. You could look at some prop bets. Like yesterday we saw Cole's prop bet at 7.5, and I thought at first, yeah, Cole could get his 7.5 strikeouts. They could still end up losing if it ends up being a closer type game. But boy, he came out, gave up some runs, gave up a few homers right away, and obviously he didn't get to his K prop. So that might be something again for tonight. We look at, maybe does Max, if he struggles a little bit, maybe they yank him out. He should have a pretty high K prop. I didn't exactly look what it is. I'm going to guess it's 7 or 8. But
7.5.
7.5, right in between. So yeah, I would assume, hey, if he gets beat up, there's a path there for him not to get to that. So definitely in playoff baseball, I think those numbers are more met for like a regular season type game. But yeah, I think that's an interesting route to look at, especially if you feel the Dodgers may lose. I think that's a pretty good bet then to get the under in the prop bet for the K's for Max.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm leaning more under in this game. I'm with you. I don't think the Cardinals pull it off. I'd love to pick the underdog here in this game, but both of these pitchers have been pitching extremely well here. The bullpens have been fantastic here to close the season as well. So it's just such a low number. It's tough to bet those under 6.5, 7, even 7.5 here. You mentioned the offenses here. A lot of big bats here. So as good as the pitching is, it wouldn't shock me to see some runs scored here. So I'm leaning more towards some of these strikeout props. I agree on the under with Max Scherzer, and we're kind of seeing that juiced up a little bit on FanDuel. The under is minus 134, so they're kind of hitting you for that. And what does that mean? It means you bet 134 to win 100. So whenever you see that minus number, that's all it equates to. Just think of things in terms of hundreds to round it up. So I'm leaning that under as well. What about Wainwright? Any thoughts on his strikeout prop sitting at 4.5, plus 110 on the over? I know he's not a huge strikeout guy, but that one seems maybe a little bit too low. Some aggressive Dodgers bats in this lineup.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Muncy might be out too, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. I think Muncy is going to be out from what I'm reading. So definitely 4.5 is not all that high of a K prop, especially for Wainwright. Like you mentioned, Wainwright's he had a really good season this year. He may even be in the mix for a Cy Young over there. I mean, Wainwright, especially that run here they had at the end. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I would tend to lean the over on that one, just because it's so low. I think with Max, you got that 7.5 Ks. I mean, obviously for him to get 7.5 Ks, he's going to have to go 5 or 6 innings. Now, Wainwright to get the 4.5 Ks, we might only have to get 3 or 4 innings out of him, maybe a K per inning, maybe 2 if we get lucky. But yeah, I think with Max, you're almost at where you got to get him to go 6 innings, and with Wainwright, like I said, I think you can maybe go 4 innings and get that number.
Yeah, agreed. And his strikeout's been a little bit better against righties, 22.5% strikeout rate against righties. You take Muncy out of that lineup, like you mentioned. Strikeouts kind of dip against lefties down to 18%. So you still have Bellinger and Seager, guys like that in the lineup, but a lot of right-handed hitters in this lineup, I think, favors the over on that strikeout prop as well. So that's going to become my best bet here. Again, the total seems about right. I lean the under. Scherzer, I lean the under on strikeouts, but we're not here to lean, Scott. We're Woodward Bets. We got to give the people our best pick. So my best bet here for tonight, I'm going over 4.5 strikeouts for Adam Wainwright at plus 110. So you're getting, again, the plus means now you bet 100. I'm getting 110 back. So you're getting a nice little bonus on that. So your best bet here, Scott, Monday night. What do you got?
My best bet, I'm going to stick around the same lines with the pitcher prop, and I'm going to go the under in that Max strikeout prop. So I'm going to go the under 7.5 Ks for Max. Obviously it's pretty scary. Max is full of Ks in that arm of his, that golden arm. I like watching Max compete, but I just think, that the question is, are they going to let him go that long? He gets in any kind of trouble, he's going to get yanked out. So I think I got more pass to that victory than him actually getting over. So I really like that. As you mentioned, the value isn't quite there with the minus 130, but I'm going to be looking at that K prop there.
All right, let's wrap up a little showdown talk here for this Wednesday night. Scott, where are you leaning captain-wise here? MVP on FanDuel. Is there a bat you want to go with? Is it a pitcher we want to go with here? Quick thoughts here for some DFS for Wednesday night.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're looking at some MVPs, if you probably put up a Cardinal up there like Nolan Arenado or Tyler O'Neill or even Goldschmidt, I think you're going to be really, really different from everybody else. I think you're going to see most people go with the Dodgers. So, hey, if the Cardinals pull it out here, I think if you want to root for the Cardinals, I think the Arenado, O'Neill, or Goldschmidt would be my way. If you're thinking you're liking the Dodgers, I might then look at a guy like maybe like a Will Smith or an A.J. Pollock. I wouldn't necessarily go the Mookie Betts, the Seagers, that route. I think I might go a little bit further down in the lineup. A.J. Pollock's been absolutely smashing lately. He's been hitting the ball really well. It will be interesting, though, to see this lineup if Muncy is not in the lineup. We'll see how they kind of shift some things around. But, man, that lineup's so versatile. It's just probably one of the best. I mean, it is the best lineup, in my opinion, in MLB. So, but to be a little different at the captain, I think if I had to pick a guy, I think it might be Nolan or Tyler O'Neill. But I've been always a fan of Nolan, so I think Nolan would be it for me.
Well, let me sell you here on Tyler O'Neill because that was my guy here. Like you said, first of all, it's not a big name. Any casual coming in knows Paul Goldschmidt, knows Nolan Arenado, Mookie Betts. They know all these names. So Tyler O'Neill, kind of a new kid on the block here. He's their best hitter against righties power-wise, 257 ISO for him. The Woba right there with Goldschmidt. He also matches up very well with the pitches Scherzer's going to throw. It's mainly fastballs and sliders, two right-handed hitters. O'Neill's numbers look fantastic against both of those pitches. So he, to me, is the guy. A, he's unknown. B, you mentioned a lot of people are going to captain Dodgers and people they know. C, matches up very well with Max Scherzer. As good as Max has been, he's not immune to giving up home runs here. So to me, Tyler O'Neill, tonight's captain and MVP in your DFS lineup. So any value play, Scott, a way to save some money here? I think Cody Bellinger stands out as a decent value with his power down at 6,200 on DraftKings. Anyone stand out here to save people some money, making life a little bit easier on them?
Well, I mean, obviously it's a big game. Their best big game player so far this year is Yadier Molina. I mean, that guy's only 5,500. I like Yadier. I mean, I think he usually steps up in the big games. I like him. And then maybe Harrison Bader down there. I mean, he might be down in the bottom of that lineup, but that kid's got some pop too. Maybe can steal some bases. So I don't mind that. And one guy that I like to use on the Dodgers a lot is Chris Taylor. I think Chris Taylor is another guy you can get fairly cheap. I think he's only $6K on FanDuel for the showdown. Depending where he's hitting, probably down toward the bottom of the lineup. But you never know. With Muncy being out, we'll see how the lineup gets shifted around if he is out. But yeah, I think those are a good couple guys there you could look at: Molina, Bader, and maybe even Taylor.
Yep. So I'll add to Bellinger. I agree with you on Yadier Molina. Super cheap. Plays the big stage. A lot of people don't like playing catchers either. You know, in daily DFS, day to day, we don't really want to play catchers ever. You don't have to, but I think to it in showdowns because nobody really wants. So only 4,400 on DraftKings. You mentioned the FanDuel price. He's pretty cheap everywhere. So any other final thoughts here, Scott? Baseball? Anything else? It pretty much wraps us up for today. Final thoughts here for the people.
No, just really excited. Like I said, great time of the year. We got baseball playoffs. We got football coming on. We got the two sports, NBA and NHL. And hey, that just leads me to one quick thing. Hey, if you're an aspiring writer out there and you like to play DFS hockey, you like to play fantasy hockey, maybe even some season-long NBA and even some NBA DFS, hit up Chris or I on our Twitter page. We're looking for some writers that potentially write for us here at Woodward Bets. I'm not claiming to be a hockey guy. I do like to follow hockey, and I'm not even really that big of an NBA guy. I do like to dabble and play some DFS, but baseball and football are my two things. So, I'm not going to bullshit you and just give you some information. We want to get some experts out there. So, hey, if you're an expert, you feel like you can help us out, just send us a quick message. With those two sports, I think we're only a couple weeks away from them to kicking off. So, like I said, exciting time of the year. We're always looking to grow our brand, and as you said, we want to talk about what the people want to hear, and to get you set for either your DFS lineups or your season-long leagues. So definitely lots of opportunities here moving forward here at Woodward Bets. So hit us up, and we'll see if we can get you on in here and talk to you and see what we can do.
Yeah, echo those sentiments. The question I've gotten the most over the years is how do I get into doing fantasy, giving content, doing videos, doing writing? We want to be that place for you. We want to provide that opportunity for people that want to come in, work hard, have their voice heard, have their work read, acknowledged. So please feel free to reach out either at Woodward Bets on Twitter. Scott is at G_Risen. I am at Beer Makers Fan. Those DMs are always open for you guys, and really want to grow this into something fun, something for the people, something a little bit different than some of the other stuff that's out there, hopefully. But if nothing else, we want to entertain you each and every day. And hopefully we've done that, and we will continue to do that moving forward. So that will wrap us up here for Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow. Another look at baseball. Thursday night should be a fun night in the NFL as well. So we'll have our best bets for Rams and Seahawks. We'll cover the DFS slate there as well, get you all set for your showdown contest, and continue to update the news, the injuries in the NFL. And maybe we'll start getting into a little NBA preview at some point. Scott, you said you don't do much NBA. I love the NBA. Big fan. Probably my second favorite sport behind NFL, so we'll cover that. As far as hockey, I know nothing about hockey. It's the one sport. We'll have to bring Darren McCarty in and give us some hockey knowledge. But, again, that'll do it for today. For Scott, for our boy Sawyer behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.